New York City food tour, Chinatown edition. Hi, I'm Megan, a licensed New York City tour guide, and today I'm going to take you around one of my favorite neighborhoods in New York City, Chinatown, in search of some of my favorite sweet treats, so that when you come, you'll know where to eat. Chinatown's a great place to come for budget food as well, so let's start exploring. But before we set off, make sure that you hit subscribe so you never miss a New York Minute.
Yeah, muffin talk. Ooh, muffin talk. Muffin talks, bringing healing to those who need the most.
Our first stop today is Alimama. I first discovered Alimama because they make this beautiful bubble tea that all of the influencers were taking photographs of. And if you look at the top of this bubble tea, look, there's actually edible gold on top of it and these beautiful flower petals. This is the lychee rose bubble tea. It comes with a full lychee inside of it. You can order it to different sweetnesses, different amounts of ice. I always get the mini boba in it as well. I'm gonna take a sip. I always love it. If it's hot outside, it is the most refreshing beverage that you can imagine. Now, Alimama is unique amongst the other stops in that it actually has a place to sit. And because a lot of the other stops don't actually have, they weren't allowing me to film inside, we bought the food and we filmed some B-roll, and we're gonna taste everything right here at Alimama. Alimama has more than just bubble tea, so I'm gonna taste some of their pastries. I also have my hand gel from Erin's Faces to make sure that my hands are nice and clean while I'm doing all of these tastings. So something that Alimama has that's so special, and I personally haven't seen these anyplace else, these are mochi munchkins. So they are mochi donut holes, mochi munchkins. And this is taro flavor. So mochi has a much more chewy taste and chewy texture than a traditional donut. And I personally love it, and I find that the mochi munchkins have a really special magic to them. So try a taste right now. They're so good. Every time. I'm gonna have to share some of these with David because they're so wonderful. Something else, when I ordered these, they actually told me it was going to be a 5-minute wait because they make them fresh. So what you can't tell when you look at these, they are warm. So unlike when you go to Dunkin' Donuts, it's often more of like a room temperature donut. This is so warm, and it's a little chilly today. It's one of our first days of fall. So it is the perfect treat to have today. It's time for our next treat from Alimama. This is another mochi donut. This is a full donut. This is their cereal donut. So it's actually covered in cereal. I'm actually going to break it in half. This way I could share it with David. I don't know that it's meant to necessarily be broken in half, but actually as I do that, you can see kind of the texture as I pull it apart. I don't know if you can look and see how dense the middle of that donut is. It's not as cakey as a donut, a typical American donut that you would get. It's so magical.
I also don't know how shareable it is because you don't want to share it.
David brings a very good point that these donuts aren't meant to be shared because you don't want to share it. So the texture is really chewy, really chewy. The cereal is really crisp, and the combination of those two textures is really fabulous. It also, it's sweet, but it's not too sweet. So you could just eat these all day. So I'm gonna go finish eating my half, and then I'll be nice and share the other half with David. Our next treat is from Fay Da Bakery. So I usually go into Fay Da and I get their sponge cake. but everyone's been telling me to get their taro puff. So this is their taro puff. Now taro is sort of a root vegetable, so it has a very unique taste. And this is taro root. I'm gonna break it in half, covered in a flaky pastry. Look at that texture. I also want to give a shout out to my friend Phil, because we work together as tour guides, and he always recommends Fay Da Bakery as his favorite bakery in all of New York City. So that's how good it is. And this is actually going to be my very first time tasting their taro puff. Oh, that's really good. So it has kind of the consistency of a sweet potato, like a mashed sweet potato, but it has a really rich, dense flavor. Something about it, it does not taste like chocolate, but it's kind of giving me the same satisfaction that chocolate does. And it's not incredibly sweet. It's not savory, but it's not incredibly sweet. And the texture, I mean, I said it's kind of like sweet potato. I could also put it maybe like in the marzipan family, like a dark marzipan. This is excellent. So way to go, Fay Da. Also, way to go, Phil, for saying it's your favorite bakery in New York City, because it is amazing. The next stop is Tai Pan Bakery. Now this is a huge bakery. They have pretty much every type of pastry that you can imagine. They have these glorious cakes that you can get as well. But what I like to get are their egg tarts. Now, it was only recently when I actually went out to Flushing, Queens, that I learned that there are actually 2 different types of egg tarts that you can get in Chinatowns in New York City. So you have the Hong Kong egg tart, and then you have the Portuguese egg tart. At first, I didn't think much about it. I just thought, okay, so they named the egg tarts after different cities. And then I read this article that was saying, isn't it strange that you have these 2 different types of egg tarts in China? And it turns out that it's because the Portuguese egg tart originated in Macau, which was underneath Portuguese rule for a period of time. And then the Hong Kong egg tart originated in Hong Kong, which was under British rule. So these 2 different recipes went through the countries of Europe and made it to China through very different routes. And they came up with these 2 different egg tarts that are actually very different, despite the fact they look very much the same. So this Hong Kong egg tart is made using the whole egg. The top is not caramelized, and it has more of the crust is slightly different than the Portuguese tart. So I'm gonna try to break it in half so that you can maybe see the difference in the crust. So we're gonna start with this one. And look how smooth that custard is on the inside. You can see the difference, or notice this crust, and then we'll examine the Portuguese crust. I'm gonna give this one a taste because it's in my hand and delicious, and the crust is flaking all over me, just like pie crust should. It's all over my face. It's excellent. It could battle any sort of custard or flan that I have had in Paris. It is so good. So now we're gonna move on to the Portuguese tart. The Portuguese egg tart. So if you look at the top of it is a little bruleed. Now, I've been told that this is made using only egg yolks, so that kind of custardy filling is so rich. And you have kind of more of a puff pastry to the crust. So I'm gonna try to break this in half. It's not breaking in half incredibly easily, but you can see a difference in the crust and maybe a little bit of difference in the filling. We have the layers, actually on this half you can see it better, the layers of that puff pastry kind of falling away. We're gonna give this one a taste. Now when I went out to Flushing, I remember liking the Portuguese tarts a little bit better, but we'll see if they're the same this time. I love that filling. It is so rich. so delicious. The Hong Kong one I think is maybe a little bit lighter, but I really like that dense, rich flavor of the Portuguese egg tart and the filling. Oh, it's so good. And I kind of like that puff pastry as the pie crust. It's really unique and delicious. So I'm gonna eat my egg tarts, and I'm gonna let David taste his egg tarts too, because he has been talking about how much he loves them for this entire trip. So I'll be back. I am going to give everybody a warning. If you come to Chinatown, you might wanna not wear black pants. Or maybe be not as messy of an eater as me. Oops. I give food bloggers so much credit. How do they look cute eating? I don't understand. Tell me your secrets in the comments below. How do you look cute eating? The next stop is Keki's Modern Cakes. Now I want to give a shout out to one of my favorite vloggers and YouTubers and my vlogging mentor, Cup of TJ, because I would not have known about Keki's Modern Cakes without her. So Keki's Modern Cakes is the most famous for their bouncy cheesecake, which we're gonna try, but I'm also gonna show you their cream puffs. So I got 2 of the milk puffs and 1 that is ube flavored. I got these the other day. I've had a lot of these puffs and they've been fabulous, but none were as fabulous as the ones that I had here. So I'm gonna show you them. Here it is. Ta-da! I'm gonna attempt to break it in half. Something that David and I learned is that these don't necessarily break in half easily. Look, 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 look. Oh, whoa. Oh my goodness, it's so magical. It's so good. Okay, I'm just gonna taste the cream here because it's so good. I don't know what they do to this cream. It is magical. I am handing one to David right now because he's remembering how good they taste. Literally, this is light as a cloud, the cream. So light, so wonderful. The crust has like a little bit of crunch to it, which is the perfect contrast to this floaty, floaty cream. But it's not too crunchy that you can't bite into it. It is magic. This is magic. This is magic. This is magic. This is magic. I'm gonna go finish eating it and I'm gonna let David eat his. This is what Keki's Modern Cakes is really famous for. It's bouncy cheesecake. Here it is. Now again, I'm gonna give another shout out to Cup of TJ. You should subscribe to her channel. Her most recent Chinatown video, she explores this cheesecake. She described it as eating a giant cheesy cloud. And I love cheese and I love clouds, so I knew that I had to try it. And I like really trust her, her taste. So here I am, hitting my bouncy cheesecake with a knife. I'm going to cut into it. Look at that texture. Okay. I'm gonna try to gracefully get it out of there. Okay, I'm going to show you how bouncy that cheesecake is. The texture is, it's so light. I actually got the cheesecake last week and I ate the whole cheesecake by myself. It is so light and fluffy that you can eat the cheesecake by yourself and not even feel, oh, I ate a whole cheesecake. You'll want to eat another whole one. So I'm gonna taste it again, see if it's as good the second time. It's as good the second time. TJ was absolutely right. It tastes like a very lightly cheesy cloud. The texture is wonderful. It's something that like I myself didn't grow up with. When I think of cheesecake, I think of that traditional New York cheesecake, those giant slices of like really dense cheese, not something that's really bouncy and fluffy. And I actually think, I don't know if this makes me a bad New Yorker, I might actually prefer this cheesecake. It is so good. So I am now going to take this cheesecake and I'm going to run away so that David can't eat any. Before I do, make sure that you hit subscribe so you never miss a New York Minute.